So we decided to stay up and watch the fourth one after all. So we
Yeah.
binged the second, third, and fourth one in the same day, even well, more like night, honestly, and morning. Now for
Mhm.
Justin, it's like 5:30 a.m. for him, and
Mhm.
yeah, we're gonna watch the fifth one tomorrow. But we just went through number four. Now I thought for sure, even after watching the first three, just just recently, I was like, okay, the fourth one though, 11 years apart from the third one, probably gonna not be as good, probably gonna suck. You know what? I kind of like this one too, to my surprise.
I know. I
To
know.
my
It
surprise.
Yep, having the same creative team, it's like it's so weird. People who have like a 10-year gap or 11-year gap, they really do they sell it in this one. They give it their all, and this was Wes Craven's last movie. And I think he ended on a huge, huge high note.
I think so too, man. This was, I mean, at the beginning especially, they're extremely aware of meta stuff, and they're trying to really, what they. This is like the meta with love is what I'll kind of call this, because they address things that they know that fans talk about with stuff, but it's not in like a. I guess I'm used to it being done in a condescending kind of way, and it doesn't feel like that in this movie at all.
It doesn't feel
It,
condescending at
it
all.
it does not feel condescending. It's
Well, that's
oh,
because, you know, Wes Craven is a man of taste.
he even threw in the line, don't fuck with the originals. It's just like, even though this is the fourth movie in this little series, it's like it's it definitely still respects its first one while still doing something pretty good in and of itself. I don't know. I didn't see this one coming. Yeah, the whole time. This was the first of the Scream ones that I'm not exactly guessing who's the killer. I'm just like wondering what's going to happen next. Though I'm like, okay, so what type of thing is going to happen next? Maybe, or is the final shebang going to be? What's gonna, who might live to the end of it? But I wasn't thinking who's the killer, and so I was actually even more surprised. Was, especially when it's like the characters themselves do the loop de loop de loop de loop of things. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. It's been so meta, or it's been so done in subversions all around that I can't predict it anymore. So
Yeah, it's uh it's interesting, isn't it? That once again you think it's the boyfriend, but again, it's not the boyfriend this time.
yeah, in a way, I was like, well, it could easily be that, but it doesn't seem like it enough. Like he's in it, but not enough to. I don't know. I wasn't sure
Yeah,
with
he had
that.
no character really.
Yeah, and just like, yeah, I was like, man, the movie ones, one of the movie guys would have made sense, especially how
Hmm.
they described that. So I was like, okay, maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
Rory Culkin definitely would have been a good choice,
yes,
which would be the correct choice.
yeah,
Charlie was definitely a character that you could have easily predicted, but at the same time, like when you put that out of your mind, especially when you're binge watching, one, well, you weren't binge watching one, like you watched the first one and then you
hmm
waited a day and then you did two, three, and then four. It's one
yeah,
of those movies, one of those series that you just want to know what happens next. And now that you've finished the Wes Craven saga of that. You know, three was kind of like a high note in that regard. I don't know. What do you think of four being that like if that was the last movie that a lot of people wish it was because it was Wes Craven's last movie and it was also like the ending of like the second ending of this franchise, this
yeah.
quadrilogy.
This feels like it's one of those ones where you didn't need this movie, but it's okay to include it. It doesn't ruin the previous ones at all. And yeah, I don't know if I'd say it enhances anything, but it continues the quality in a decent enough way. I mean, there's a good decade of time between the last film, so a lot of things are different in
Mhm.
general. with that. So the technology thing, that's part of the thing these days with it. You can give them a phone call anywhere instead of just in the house. So that's always an element that I think is understandable there. And I don't know. I mean, having it be one of her family members that is the killer while she's in
Yeah.
town, I think was a nice little twist because it's one of those characters that I don't think was mentioned. Like, was this character Jill ever mentioned before?
No.
But it's the kind of thing where
Or
well,
or
she has other
the,
family, like that's
yeah, or her mom.
her aunt.
It's just like yeah, like was the aunt ever mentioned? No.
No, but
Because
it but
it
it's
wasn't, and it seems like there are some people who are forgotten uh in tragedies, and then like there are a lot of victims. There are a lot of people who are, I guess, survivors per se, but they have survivor's guilt, they have their own issues. That could have been explored a little bit more with the aunt character,
yeah.
for sure. That is without question. But yeah, it would have been nice to have a bigger a bigger moment that like was more meaningful. Like, as the series goes on, there are more and more things to pick apart. That are you know kind of like flaws per se. Like you can, but that's on multiple rewatches. When you're watching it for the first time, like you're still amazed that like, oh my gosh, these guys still got it. Which is your perspective, Rookie. My
Yeah.
perspective is, I've seen this, a few times, well, multiple times, and I still pick apart certain things, and there are things that I still like, and there are things that I don't like. One of the things that I didn't mention with Scream 3 was that the reason why it was less bloody and more comedic was because they had a different script. Uh, it was because of Columbine.
Okay.
Yeah, and they had a script that was, like Stu Macher being alive in prison and directing young kids to enact violence, which I should have mentioned, but I was also tired, you know, 3 hours ago, so I forgot to mention that. So
Well,
that's why that they had that comedic tone, and in this one, that's why I feel like like when you are watching this, without that context, you're like, oh, Scream One is, oh, that's pretty, yeah, it is what it is, and then Scream Two, yep, it's pretty brutal too, I guess. There
mhm,
is, I guess, more blood and more gore, but there's less guts.
right, true.
So it doesn't entirely live up to it. And then Scream 3, you don't see any blood, really. It's more about like the story. And that's what's more important. That's what I guess that's what motivated uh, the rewrites for that to be the driving force, and that's what's the driving force for all four of these movies thus far, is that you are. I, I don't know about you, Rookie, but I feel that the driving force for all four of these movies thus far is I'm more excited about what the characters are going through. Like the three surviving ones, like Sydney, Gail, and Dewey. I want to know what they're going through, how they've dealt with the trauma that they've been through, how they've developed, what the character consistencies are like. Like, are they still the same people? That's and they've been very consistent throughout these four movies, and I'm shocked at how consistent they are. Even with multiple re-watches, I'm still so impressed by just how faithful that they still are, adapted, even within a 10-year gap. Like Gale Weathers is still Gale Weathers. Dewey is still Dewey, for sure. And Sydney is still Sydney, even though she took a little bit of a backseat in this one. But you can, even in the moments that she is there, uh, she's still. You could tell, even though she has less screen time and less of a. I mean, the scenes with her without dialogue, this is what we were talking about, either in Scream 2 or the Scream 3 thing. I think we talked about this, was that there, oh no, it was Scream 2, where we were talking about how there's a lot of like dialogue and it's just like there aren't too many moments of silence. And in this one, there's a lot of moments of Sydney being quiet and not saying anything, and sometimes silence speaks volumes.
Having the reveal be Jill as the killer for her, it wasn't so much of like, oh, how could you? It seemed more with the acting expressed that she felt sorry for her. Like, she wasn't just like, oh my gosh, how could you do this? It was like, yeah, this kind of makes sense in a way of like how much it's going on in the world, I guess, that it is for her. Like, all the attention being on Sydney, and the I guess she probably doesn't feel as sorry for like how she's like, I want to be famous and I don't need to achieve anything. I just need to
That
have
was
a
Moni
horrible
and
event to happen.
Bratty and
But without that, other than that part, it seems like it's a little more like tragic from her perspective. Like, this whole trauma caused by like my brother that was rejected by my mom, that went through all these things, that she might have, like, all this stuff that like throughout all these films there's a huge story that actually is interesting, like more interesting as it gets piled onto, I suppose. Like, it's already interesting enough, and then the more stuff that's added isn't making it worse. It's making it, I don't know if it's better, but it's not worsening it. It's keeping it up, which
yeah.
is difficult for sequels to do without ruining the shit that they already have. I don't know. This is good. I don't know, because like I liked like when she is the girl's talking about the stuff and she like shoots the dude in the head like so coldly. And from Sydney's perspective, this was like a little girl. Which is like, no, she is. But with this one, I liked how they
Yeah.
didn't go into like having Dewey and Gale
Hmm.
be completely at odds in this. They are a little bit, of course. They're not, they're
Especially
not
at the
working.
beginning.
They're not working together exactly. But they're not like, oh yeah, well, we've broken up again. Nope, they've been together in this one, so they kept that connecting thread. Sydney, she's not like in a way, I was expecting her to like be a black belt in karate at this point, to be able to,
You
you
thought she
know,
was going to be a Mary Sue.
not a Mary. No, I wouldn't define her as a Mary Sue at that point, especially with everything she's gone through. Like, if she were to train and get good at stuff, that would have been the motivation for it. So, would not be in the Mary
Hmm.
Sue territory, honestly.
Even though she did like kick Ghostface like a karate like sort of move.
But
Like
yeah, but that's like a typical self defense thing, I would think, that she would have at this point. But she didn't. She wasn't like, oh, he's gonna come in for the stab, and then she does a kick backflip or something with, and then like, oh, he tries to stab her and she can just easily.
yeah,
She's not
it it,
Black Widow. She's not Black Widowing this, you know.
it didn't
But
go
that would have been,
full Mighty Morphin,
yeah, not quite. But she still has a level of self defense, which I think is a neat touch. I
And what
think
did you think of the killer reveals versus the other ones? Like which ones, like with the motivations behind them? Uh,
Yeah,
I
this one's
mean,
probably weak for the motivation, I guess, for us watching it. But I mean, I believe the character in a weird way. Like, I think it makes enough sense with it. It's like, it's this character that when she was young, like, if members in her family died, but she wasn't connected to them very much. But anything about her family had to do with the Sydney person and about her murders. And then there's these movies that are about them, so she's also super famous. But she's like in the shadow of it and not really mentioned with any of it. It seems like there's just not that much connection there. She's in this tech world where like Twitter and Facebook are on the rise, and everybody is like movies at by 2011. There's all these super mega tropes and everything that gets annoying, I guess, for the kids. And she wants to, like she said, you don't have to achieve things to be famous anymore. You can just have tragic things happen to you, and then everybody will know who you are. And that's kind of what that is, especially back then. I think some stories would catch fire
Mhm.
more back then compared to now. Like nowadays, there's school shootings all the time, unfortunately. But how those only are newsworthy for like a week, and then it's done.
Yeah.
Compared to something like this, I guess from
Yeah, like
from back then.
yeah, like where Columbine can affect Scream 3,
Yeah, exactly.
and the whole plot of it versus, yeah, it happens every week, which is very tragic, but that's
Yeah,
and another thing is how much or how little social media has changed. Like
yeah,
the Robbie character, like the guy who I think his name is Robbie. Like he was live streaming his entire life.
yeah.
That
Pretty much. Yeah, that was.
there's no way you could do that in 2011 at all, and
Yeah,
with a headset, with a GoPro, and have that work. Like, there's going to be a lot of Wi-Fi issues. There's going to be like,
they were
yeah,
thinking
you
of the
can't even do that.
future.
I mean, can you even do that now? I don't know how you do
No,
that
there'd be
now.
too many technical difficulties. They'd have to. It would get cut off too often, or the footage
Yeah,
would be grainy as
exactly.
shit. The audio would suck. Whatever. There's like a million things that would go wrong, probably.
Yeah.
But I think the idea though went through, shined through enough. I mean, if we look at now, jump about a decade after Scream 4, then yeah, I mean we live stream a lot, and we have cameras around
Hmm.
far more often than back then. So I
And
mean,
we
it's a
document each
slow,
other's lives and post it on
it's
social media a
maybe
lot more.
going slower than he thought it would, but it is sort of there. I mean, at some point, yeah, it seems like half our lives are just going to be on camera for some people, but we're like in the space where you do that, so maybe that's not even true. I don't know.
Well, it could be true for us, but it's not true for everybody. I mean, it's
No,
all
that's what I
about
was just
how
saying.
much you want to reveal and how much you want to put out there. And
That's what I was just
yeah,
saying. We're in a space where this is what we do compared to other people that
yeah.
don't. So
So yeah, hmm it's just gonna be one of those things where it's accurate for some. Like, I mean, keeping up with the Kardashians was like sort of the
well,
thing, but
what
now we see even more of their lives. It's like how
Well,
much of
those
their
were
private
reality
lives do they
TV
actually
that
have?
were those were reality TV. That's a whole thing in and of
Well,
itself.
yeah,
But
yeah, but they're also on Instagram all the time. And it's just one of those things where, like, if you grow up in the spotlight, or like you want to project your life into the spotlight, or in any way for the internet to see, no matter if you're like a big celebrity or you're not, it it kind of this movie uh, complements that and projects it in a way that it's not insulting to that, but it also says, "Hey, this is kind of silly." At the same time, but it's like it's not in a mean spirited way. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
and
Like
yeah,
a lot of meta commentary films in any sort of genre, it always feels like it's a slap in the face to somebody, but this does not insult anybody.
that's what I was saying earlier. It doesn't condescend. It doesn't feel
Yes,
condescending. It's like
yeah,
it's doing the commentary without shitting on you in what you do, which is like I'm almost like baffled because I'm like it's like being meta. It's addressing things that nerds do, but it's not like actually taking a dump on them.
and it's relevant
What?
now. Like it still
Yeah,
holds up in a weird way.
it's insane. How was Scream 4 received by general audiences? Do you think, or at least your
Uh,
friends when you were around when or
it
something?
was the lowest grossing Scream film, like
Yeah, but what
less
like
than
what
a
was?
$100 million, but also
Mm,
a lot of people. Well, with my friends, I mean, I would have contributed to the box office multiple times, but I wasn't old enough. So there we go.
Well, I
Otherwise, I
guess
would have.
right.
A lot of people think that at the time it was the weakest because it was the newest, and it was just like, oh, whatever. But as time went on, it's so interesting how well that it really has aged. Even before Wes Craven died, people were like, "Oh, this is not as bad as I thought." Like it's one
Yeah,
of those things where like it was new and it was like the people thought it was like the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and
I
it's
got you.
like,
The
no, not
the
quite.
movie that nobody wanted tacked on to a trilogy, and it's like, oh, here's another one, huh? Well, let's see. For me, again, watching them all for the first time and back to back, I mean, this fits right into me. Like this, if you told me there's a 10-year gap, I don't know, or like if you didn't tell me there's a 10-year gap, I would have thought it was a few years later, maybe. Like it was other than the actors having aged, but
Hmm.
it's good. Fits right in, I'd say. I don't know if we're talking about rank. I don't know how to rank them right now with all four now. This is
I wouldn't
it's
ask you
getting it's
to,
getting harder. It's getting harder for me to rank them.
because it seems like every other movie just seems to build and build upon each other.
Yeah, I'd
Oh,
say I'd
all
say
right.
by the time we got to Scream 3, it was more of a completed story in and of itself. But this is like it's the fourth one that, like the third one, adds some context to the original that changes things a little bit, but not entirely. And
Hmm.
it gives motivation for what they're doing in this one, and they're trying to be like the original, but it's like they're not copying it directly. I don't know.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was
like yeah, like the film club, the AV club scene is like where we're supposed to get the rules, and I didn't really get like a three rules sort of thing. I just got like generalizations. They were just bullshitting.
well, that's fine. I don't think they needed to have three specific rules just because the first one did that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and as far as like
it
as far as
felt
the
it felt kind of natural. Like it was
yeah,
just like we don't really
just a
need that
movie. It's a movie
anymore.
club, and they're talking. That's just a general thing,
Yeah, and
generalization.
there's no Randy in this one, unlike the third one where they had like a bullshit way
A little
to
cameo.
get yeah, get him in the movie, but it also like kind of worked within the context of the film.
Yeah,
There's no way that you could have ever included Randy in that. Like there's no way. Um,
no,
and it kind of it sucks in a way, but rewatching it now, like back to back to back with two, three, and four, I don't really think that anything is missing. It's not skipping a beat. It just flows. Like it's
yeah,
very natural. It's just like, all right, Randy's gone. And that's it is what it is. It is sucks, but watching them all at once, I don't feel like I did when I was 12, when I was like really upset when he died. Like I was really mad, and I felt
I
like there was
honestly
an
don't
emptiness.
understand everybody's attachment to Randy. I really don't. He was the one I thought about the least watching these. It's like, oh yeah, Randy, whatever. That was,
Well,
that was my
because
that was my
he
perception.
was supposedly he was the voice for the audience, and in the second film, it seems like the audience's voices was cut off
Yeah, I don't
at the
know.
time. And with newer viewers, it's like, yes, this is exactly what I'm thinking. This is exactly what I'm thinking. Thank you for saying this. And then it's now gone, and now there's like no one to speak for me. I don't know.
I guess
Maybe
so. I
that's
never. I guess I've never viewed it like that, where like a character is what helps me get the information. I don't
well,
know.
it's not about getting the information. It's about saying exactly what you are thinking in your
I don't know.
head.
It could. I don't know because to me it just feels like it's fine if he's not. in those. So I don't know. I don't. It's just one of those things where I don't know if you can explain because I'm not getting it. It's just no,
I don't
wasn't
know.
there. Wasn't there for me.
It could be a matter of you're wrong and I'm right,
Mm,
or I'm right and you're wrong, which is exactly what I just said. No,
uh-huh.
no, no. I mean, it's just a difference of opinion. And there's nothing wrong with how you feel about, like you think Randy's inconsequential. That's okay. That's totally
Well, not
fine.
inconsequential. I just don't have any attachment to him, this
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Like I wasn't upset that he was killed. I was like, oh,
But in regards to Scream 4, like his absence, uh to your credit, I will say that I feel that I feel that it was so natural, and not having that whole like, oh, these are the rules, like it's vaguely said in that film club scene, because it didn't feel like it didn't need to happen. Like if we didn't have this scene, it would be so terrible. Like, we need the rules, exemplified for us and spelled out to us. Rule number one, rule number two, rule number three. They just sort of said it, and it was like, okay, that kind of works this time around, and it
yeah,
felt good.
they just kind of said it casually, like it was just what they thought. wasn't wasn't a rule for us or for the other characters in there. Yeah, I thought the gore, like for if that's an aspect people talk about with it, there wasn't too much gore in this, really. I mean, I didn't think there was, except for the one scene with the
Mm-hmm.
one chick getting killed. That was blood all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
but that was done in a nice little way. I liked that when they're talking on the phone, they're watching Shaun of the Dead. The other girls across the street, and I feel like that scene was done pretty cleverly. With there, he's like, I'm in the
Oh, come on!
closet.
There's no way. Like, you didn't predict. Like, oh, it's probably her closet.
Well, it doesn't matter if I predicted it. I'm saying that I think that it was done well
Yeah. Oh,
compared
okay.
to what others might have done. I haven't seen. I mean, the way that they did that all made sense as far as I can
Yeah.
tell looking at it. It wasn't like because a lot of movies I think will do a thing where they're there but then they're not there in a way that doesn't make sense. Like sometimes, like when a character disappears randomly, it's like you look away and then they're gone. There's like, what? Like just
Yeah.
no noise, nothing to indicate that they moved. This one was like, no, they're in. It was in the other closet, and we're focusing on the girls in this room. But they did say with the on speakerphone, watching Shaun of the Dead, and so
And the fact that the other girl was in on it and was pretending like, what, and for a lot of people, they thought that Emma Roberts was a terrible actress in this, but really what she was doing was acting, uh, like, for a character that is
yes,
supposed to be acting.
yes,
Like, that's what you're supposed to do. It's very meta. It's like, you think like, oh my gosh, Emma Roberts, like this, unfabulous chick, like from Nickelodeon, is like doing a terrible job. Of course she is, because she's from Nickelodeon. But no, that if you actually think about it, she's performing terribly because that's how the character is supposed to be. She's not
yeah,
a bad actress. She's just very meta within the meta of Scream. Like, that's why she's perfect.
yep. That's why that works.
Yeah. And there's a
Makes
lot of
sense.
things that works. Like, there's a lot of things that work, and some, I guess, for a lot of people, don't work as much. But ultimately, I think this was probably, for the longest time, I thought this was better than 3. I don't even know anymore. Like, from 2,
Yeah,
3, and then 4.
it's hard. It's hard to judge them in the same kind of light as well. They're
Mm-hmm.
all each of these films are achieving something different. They're not doing the same thing necessarily, even though it's sort of meta about doing the same things. It's not though.
It's
It's
not obvious. It's not spelled out for you, which is going to be very interesting when you watch Scream 5.
this will be the real test of
Yeah.
this, I suppose.
And since it's 6 in the morning and the birds are chirping now, I shall be getting to bed.
That's a good idea. We still
But
got to
I
watch.
cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch Scream 5 with you, and hopefully I will not have a headache.
We'll
Because
see.
this has been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey, and
Yes,
I hope that you enjoy Scream 5 more than I did.
we'll see. This seems to be the controversial one.
Oh, it really is.
Okay.
If you enjoyed all of these films, like it seems like you're like Scream, whatever, but you really enjoyed 2, 3, and 4 so much more, and I'm astonished that you have loved it as much as you have.
Me too. Expecting to be a hater, but no, I like it.
I'm glad.
Yes. Yeah. With that, we'll see you guys on the next one.